Started. Okay. Prynawn da, croeso I cyfarfod, diolch I chi gyd am dod. Agenda item number 1, apologies for absence. Councillor Paula Leighton sends her apologies. I don't think there's any other apologies. No, thank you, Matthew. Agenda item number 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government and Finance Act 1992 relating to council tax, the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Members' Code of Conduct. Members are reminded that they must identify the item number as subject matter that their interest relates to and signify the nature of the personal interest, and where members withdraw from a meeting as a consequence of the disclosure of a prejudicial interest, they must notify the chair when they leave. Do any members have any declarations of interest? Okay, nobody's indicating. Agenda item number 3, and this is the only report today. It's the bereavement services, activities and programmes. It's going to be presented by the Cabinet Member, Councillor David Jones. The report author is Mark Panniers, who will be answering any questions later as well. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. There is no statutory duty for a local authority to provide burial spaces, though, should it choose to do so, there is then a duty to maintain any burial spaces in good condition. In Merthyr Tydfil, we have 5 cemeteries and 5 gardens of rest, as named in the report of 3.2. Our cemeteries date back to the 1800s, and it is challenging to keep walls and general structures in a good state of repair. Works are funded as per 4.2 in the report. The bereavement services workforce are highlighted at 5.11, and a brief description is given at 5.13 regarding exhumations. Section 5.2 in the report gives an overview of capacity in our cemeteries. Section 5.3 describes grass cutting schedule from April to September annually and the engagement of 4 seasonal members of staff. Section 5.4 relates to fees and charges that the Council charges. Section 5.5 relates to the memorial safety policy and the Council's responsibility to ensure memorials are not a health and safety hazard to cemetery visitors and staff. Section 6 describes the Council's digital mapping at Cefn Coed of all Council burial records, graves and memorials. Also the purchase of further land at Cefn Coed and Pant to increase capacities at these cemeteries. I think I've covered most of it, unless there's anything that I've missed, Mark.
No, that was everything.
In that case, thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David Jones. I open it up to questions from members. Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Could I first of all ask on page 6, 5.13, refers to the fact, the last sentence, a grave digging post is currently being advertised and the successful applicant will be trained so that they can also carry out exhumations. So I think we got 5 grave diggers altogether. That's correct. So does that simply mean that currently, till this post is filled, we got 4 grave diggers?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And how long does it take to train someone who is applying to also carry out exhumations?
Well, that will be a course. We'd send them on a course to get that experience and qualification to carry out that work. And
when you say it's a course, is that a few months course? Is there an examination at the end of it?
That's a good question. I'll have to find out the details for that.
Right.
Okay.
Because obviously, it's extremely important if we're training someone to carry out something that is very sensitive as an exhumation. I think, as an authority, we need to be aware that they've done all the training and they are confident on what they might be called upon to do. Not necessarily straight away, but it might happen within a year or two.
Definitely, yeah, agreed, yeah. Yeah, so we'll get them trained as soon as. I'll find out the details for you, Councillor.
Okay. Perhaps if you get the answer, if we could email that to all the members. Thanks very much. The next one, Chair, is on page 9, and it's paragraph 6.1.2, top of the page. There we talk about mapping all the graves and memorials in the county borough cemeteries. But the last sentence says both the digitisation of the mapping and the burial records will be time-consuming project. So sufficient resources will need to be allocated to complete each task. So the word there is in the plural, projects. So for example, we've started that. So we must have found money somewhere to allocate to have that work done. Do we know how much that will cost in total? And is the money being set aside in the budget for this financial year? And the projects, is the amount sort of divvied up depending on how many in each project?
Sorry, it's existing resources that we use there at the moment. It's just building this work into actual existing staff's schedules.
But I've read somewhere else there is no allocated budget set aside for cemeteries and burials. You know, this wouldn't come under maintenance, because it sounds as if we depend on property services if they got some members of staff available.
No, this is purely work that's being organised between ourselves and the digital mapping officer, the GIS officer.
Right.
So it's actually finding times in their schedules to carry out this work.
Right.
Yeah, it's additional to what they're doing. So,
right. So it's because there's very few of them. It's bereavement staff involved with this.
It's bereavement staff, the technical officers, and the GIS officer.
Right. So we're talking about what, 3 at the maximum.
2 or 3, yeah. 2 or depending on the amount of work we have.
So this is, Chair, this is a very big project.
Yeah.
So if they're doing it within their normal working hours and doing their work that they normally do, it seems to me they're going to be extremely busy for what, in the foreseeable future.
Yes, they will. Yes, it is.
Yeah. And the staff, you know, we've had discussion with the staff and they're more than happy to do with this with the existing staff.
It's part of their duties. It's just making sure we find the time to get this project carried out.
Yeah, but I would have thought it's very time consuming. It's a sensitive area. They've got to be very careful.
They have.
It's not something you can do in a rush, I would have thought.
That's correct, yes.
Chair, through you, just to add to what Mark said there, there's specific technology that they're using to do this, which does help and makes it obviously a lot quicker. It's not a manual process.
Yeah.
The GIS officer's got a specific bit of kit that you know, is helping with this.
Right. So he's the main person then who's guiding others as to what they should be doing. Okay, thank you for that. My other question is in relation to page 11 and the council cemeteries fees and charges. I note there, but halfway down, it says erection of memorials, £264. I presume that's a new memorial. It doesn't say it there. So is it the same cost? Because obviously what happens in cemeteries over time is the you know, the memorial sinks or falls, sometimes falls sideways, falls flat. So if somebody wanted to have a memorial re-erected, would it be the same charge of £264?
That will be down to the actual family then to actually carry out that work. So we do it in the first instance. Oh, sorry, we don't do it, sorry. It'll be the undertakers or the memorials.
Yeah.
Suppliers who undertake the works.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the set charges.
That's the set charge
for the undertakers to engage the people that do it.
That's correct. Yes.
Right. Okay. I think that's all of my questions for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. If I could carry on
question on the gathering of the data register, if possible, first. Have we had any thoughts about perhaps getting help from some of the other service areas in the council, like the museum, the curators there, and the library staff, who perhaps have a track record of, carrying out this kind of work of, finding data and storing it? Have we thought about that?
This is why we're using the GIS officer. He's the one who's actually doing all the recording of the graves, and he's, as Judith said earlier, we've purchased a GPS satellite, so it's all the information is gathered through that. So we've got specific points for graves. At the moment, we're coping with it, and as I say, it's down to the GIS officer to actually, he's working into his schedule, with what our team as well. So at the moment, we think we're coping with what we've got.
What I was thinking of, Mark, is going a little bit wider, perhaps, because like the Mormon Church does a lot of ancestry work, for people who have, families left Merthyr centuries ago, and they come to Merthyr looking for where their roots are, and perhaps looking where relatives are buried. So I just thought if we could have a friends of type of group, like we have in Cyfarthfa Park, that perhaps may be interested in helping on this project. Because we've got so much history, especially in Kevin, with the Jewish side of the cemetery as well. There's so much that can be done. I just thought there may be, an opportunity for us.
Well, definitely. So something we look into. We can consider that, definitely, yeah.
Great, thank you. Question I've got, because you list another question, sorry, on the cemeteries that we have under our control. One that's not there is Vena, and who is responsible for Vena Cemetery? Because I think we all get asked for that on a regular.
I haven't come across Vena Cemetery. Yeah. Yes, it's a church in Wales. It's not one we manage.
Yeah, that's one we get asked a lot about, who's cutting it back, etc. But so we know when we can point in the direction of the Church of Wales. Then, thank you very much. Again, going back onto the thing about the data, if you've been around some of our cemeteries and driven around them, some of the memorials that we got that are absolutely fantastic, and and there's one in Kevin that I noticed last week when I was going to visit the grave, and it's one of Jesus, right? No, it's huge. The actual statue is huge, and I just think how much money some of these things cost. So if something like that falls into disrepair, who's going to be responsible if we can't target, we can't find the families?
Unfortunately, it just stays in disrepair, unfortunately. It's not something that we, as a service, we can cover.
And none of these will be listed, would they, these memorials?
That's a good question. I can check.
Yeah, because there's some real special ones, especially, Kevin and Pant, that I've seen. Thank you. Okay, 6.2.1, we talk about the extension to Kevin at the food part of it. It does mention about some funding coming in 25-26, but when do you think we could tell, the general public, when will that be available?
So the extension that we've already carried out, that should be available in the next couple of months for burials now.
Oh, right, great.
Yeah,
the summer then.
Yeah, I've just issued an order to spray it. So as soon as that spraying has been done and the weeds have been removed, then we should be able to stop burying it.
Right, great. That's really positive news there. My last question, Chair, is on the trainees and apprenticeships. You mentioned that in 7.1. How many do you think we'll be looking for? Is it just the one that Councillor Jones mentioned, or do you think we can go wider?
I think we try and go as wide as we can. It's an issue at the moment within all our services, succession planning. And so, the more people we can get in, the better. Obviously, it's going down to funding. We are, at the moment, linking with an organisation called Tidville Training. So we've got a couple of boys and work experience there with us. So yeah, this is why we push out as far and as wide as we can.
Because I know it's a challenge for Mark and the team, to cut everything back. There's trees there that's established now, where growing in the middle of graves, etc. And I think when everyone visits the cemetery, you'd like to get them cut out.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll have enough manpower through this to help you. But do we still get help then through the court service as well?
Nothing at the moment, no. So it's there are people like the probation services, things. This is what we are looking to engage with.
Yeah.
So we've got some contact details that we will, as I say, in the next couple of months, try to establish a connection to see if we can get some labour resource in there.
And if you know, you do take up the idea of a friends of cemeteries type of groups in these areas, could we perhaps, you know, could they help in maintaining some of these areas as well?
Yeah, definitely. As I say, that's what we try to encourage. It's all about partnership working now. The situation we are as a council. So the more groups we can get in to work with us, obviously there's a supervision aspect that will need to be looked into. But as I say, it's all about, this is the way we get things done now, is working in partnership with different people, different groups.
It'd be fantastic if we can get that off the ground.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett Thomas. Councillor Bill Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Mark, on 4.2 about the buildings, are these buildings in the cemetery, are they listed buildings, or, because I'm reading a report, half of them are falling down. We don't use all of them, only use a percentage. So how can we change that? Do we need them all, or are we going to keep them?
As I say, it's a good question. It's something we need to look at with the property services people, what we can use, what we can't use, and then make decisions. Again, it's all down to funding, councillor.
Because all this is down to cost as well.
It's all about cost, yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
if we can save money and plough money back into the service,
Yeah.
do these buildings a bit better than they were, perhaps it could change outlook. Because some of these buildings are in a terrible state tonight.
Yeah, just in addition to what Mark said, we've recently gone through the property review with the estates service, looking at the asset management plan. So we've advised them, you know, what buildings are required for our purposes and what could be surplus, and then they take that through the asset management plan then to see if you know, there's any proposals to use them differently.
Well, what's the time limit on that then? Is that this time next year or short?
I'd have to check with the estates what their time limit is.
Because it dragged on and they get worse then.
Yeah, true.
So like on 5.3 grass cutting, I mean, on the grass cutting, can you put the dates out earlier when they're going to grass cut the cemeteries? Because this time last year, a lot of complaints come in, they're a bit late doing it, so at least people know when they're going to do it.
Okay, as I say, we try to work on a 7-week schedule. We can try and put dates out for you. Yeah, it's
just put a date out or put it on the gate or something like that in the cemetery so people know they're cutting grass. Because people, all of us tell you to come out to us when they're going to cut the grass.
Yeah, we can start looking at a schedule online maybe, yeah. We're looking to do that for you, councillor.
Okay, great. And the last one is the Brunner extension of the cemeteries up there in Pant.
Sorry?
The Brunner.
Yeah.
Pant Cemetery extension. Is there funding in the pot for that, or have we got to apply for it again?
The funding's there, ready to go. So it's just a case of getting it over the line now. It's
oh, good.
Yeah.
Because this happened 10 years, 12, 15 years ago, something like that. And the residents in that area didn't want to walk around that section. They wanted like a green belt go around.
Right, okay, yeah.
So just remember when you talk to them, because that's what they wanted. They didn't say, because Pant Cemetery, you could walk around on that, but they didn't want it lower down. Okay. They just want like a green mount. So people see a bit of grass or something like that, I see.
That's fine.
So the money in the pot for that?
The money's there, and yeah, estates management they're working with the landowners' representatives to get it all, to get it finished.
Again, what's the time limit?
This financial year.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bill Smith. Mr. Philip Starr.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a bit of clarity, Mark, mostly what I've got, because much of what's been discussed already has clarified a lot of things. First of all, can I just thank you for an excellent report? Really enjoyed reading it. I think we discussed it earlier on, and it was very clear. Hence the lack of searching questions we got, because you've explained everything really well in there. But just a couple of things. When you talk about digitisation of burial records, what kind of records are you actually keeping then? Because it comes back to Councillor Thomas's point about possibly linking up with people who are interested in their family history or interested in their roots in Merthyr Tydfil. Yeah. So what kind of records would they be expected to be able to access once these things are digitalised? Yeah,
it's all the burial records. It's all the information about burials that we've had. Past burials. What we're working on at the moment is actually the booking in system. So at the moment, we're still using a paper system to actually book in. So what we're looking to try and do is introduce that electronic booking in system. Again, it's all about saving time.
Yeah.
As I say, it's a good point of Councillor Thomas. We can definitely look into that. Historically, the records, how we get people in to help us, assist us with that.
And would the idea be, and perhaps I'm thinking a long way ahead here, to have for instance, like a search engine where a member of the public looking at their past history would be able to put the details of their ancestor into that then, and it would then possibly tell them which cemetery and where geographically in that cemetery that grave is located?
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. This is what the digitised mapping system's doing now.
It's just like the Conway War gravesite, that kind of thing.
Yeah, very similar, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that would be a real bonus to Merthyr. It would show like, care of its heritage as well then. Yeah. So thank you very much for that. Right. The other point I got there is, with the grass cutting, obviously that's not done by bereavement services, is it? That's done by a different team.
It's part of bereavement services, the agency staff we have into work with our bereavement services, yeah. So it comes under our budget.
So they're on a seasonal basis then?
It's a seasonal, start in April, finishing around the end of October, beginning of November time.
Okay.
26 weeks, yeah.
And then, how many complaints a year do you get about bins and litter in cemeteries?
Good question. I'm not quite sure. It's a question I can look for and come back to you with the answer.
5.32 says that bins are emptied as and when necessary.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no one on site anymore to make sure that those bins are emptied at particular times. But it'd be interesting to find out how many people do actually complain, because unfortunately cemeteries do attract litter. Yeah. Whether it's old flowers or old memorials or, ephemera which people want to leave at the grave. Is it a policy of removing dead flowers, or do they just rot away?
Where we can, we remove the dead flowers from memorials. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's done on a regular basis, or
I would say ad hoc basis. It's when staff are there on site and when they've got the time to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Chair. Thank you very much.
Philip Starr. Councillor David Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question. Coming back to plotting where the graves are. The fallen soldiers. I've been down Llanelli and they got a big sign of where different soldiers are buried. Have we thought of putting that up in our cemeteries?
As I say, it's something I haven't come across at the moment, but if it isn't something we've done before, then it's something we can look into.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. What's happened locally is I work closely with the Merthyr Tydfil veterans, and if you look around the cemeteries, you'll see red concrete poppies at the side of the servicemen's graves. It's a red concrete poppy on a steel leg, for want of a better word. I believe that one of the veterans has got the information relating to all the servicemen buried, or certainly those that were killed in action.
Councillor Clive Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair. On the fact that forces personnel have been killed during the war, I'm sure in many other areas, doesn't the War Graves Commission have a part of looking after those, or is that not the case? I'm sure I've over the years read that where there's maybe 2 or 3 have been buried in a municipal cemetery, but the War Graves Commission are able to look after those. So there's bound to be a number of these throughout the country. I mean, I don't know how many are buried in all our cemeteries, but for example, there must be some who were there as a result of World War II.
They have distinctive stones in it, like,
Yeah, they should do,
they'd have
yes.
the white stones, and they get a
Yes.
plaque on the entrance to the cemetery as well, saying that there's a Commonwealth War grave site in there.
Right.
Possibly they've never been recorded as perhaps
Yeah.
they died of their injuries later, or
Yeah.
I think the cabinet member wants to come in.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the War Graves Commission
Right.
do anything. The local veterans group have been out several times to some of the graves, but that petered off for whatever reason. You said there are one or two in each of the graves. The next time you go to certainly either Kevin or Pant, when you start looking around and look for the red concrete poppies, you'll be surprised how many there are. There are.
servicemen that have died later, or the servicemen that died during the conflict.
As you said, it's during the conflict or the injuries after. That's my understanding of it.
Okay.
Two other questions. Going back to the GIS officer, I seem to remember, Judith, there was a GIS officer employed in the planning department. Is it the same individual? Oh,
Richard,
right.
yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah.
so he covers duties in.
Oh, he works across all departments of the
Right.
council.
I
Yeah.
didn't realise that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, he sits within planning, but covers
Yeah.
all all departments. Yeah.
As members do, I've utilised his services from inquiries that constituents have come to me, but I didn't realise that he covered. I presume it's a he.
Yeah, he's done a number of really useful projects across frontline,
Right.
across a number of frontline services. Yeah.
Okay. Coming to the old buildings, it seems to me, Chair, that you may have difficulty in finding alternative uses for these buildings. In many cases, they're well built. They've been there in excess of 100 years old. I mean, I think of one immediately, and that's the Sexton's house, I think it was, right on the entrance to Kevin Coyne Cemetery, which I think is, I'm not aware it's been used for any purpose since where was the last sexton move out to there. So it's really, I think, a difficult area where you could immediately find an alternative use. Is that the case?
It is the case, and obviously we'll take advice from estates on what we can do with these buildings, you know.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Any other members with questions? Okay. Mark, I've just got one. It's for clarification, if that's okay. At 5.2.1, it says in 2024-25, the service undertook 160 burials and 134 ashes interments. Then on table 1, it's got current annual average demand. What am I missing? Because they don't add up to 160.
Good question. I missed that one. Yeah, that's a fair point.
I'll leave it with you. And you
Yeah, leave it with me and
Yeah,
I'll look into
lovely.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Cheers, Mark. That's all right. I don't have any other questions. Councillor David Hughes? Or comments? Comments. We'll go on to comments. Councillor David Hughes.
Right. Only just to say, excellent report. I'll be honest with you, as Phil said earlier on, when you read it, it explains everything, to be honest with you. So I'd just like to thank you for the thing.
Thank you, Councillor David Hughes. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Yeah, same as Dave, really, great report. Thank you very much for that. I think the general public, will be, shocked to see that it's not a statutory service. It's one, that the council provides at the good of our own hearts, really. But, it's bizarre, really. You think burying someone would be statutory, but, we have to find the money, and the council taxpayers have to find the money for the service. Like to mention Richard Bedford, I think he goes a little bit unsung in the authority, isn't he? He's one of the backroom staff that, puts all this GIS work together that makes our life a lot easier. So I think, just give, if you tell Richard, thank you very much for the work he does. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Geraint Thomas. Mr. Philip Starr.
Just another one, Mark, which I had written down, but there's obviously a policy there for reusing the graves. How often do we activate that?
Policy at the moment,
Yeah.
it's, as you can see from the table, new grave space, we haven't got a lot of new grave space, so the majority of burials are reuse graves.
And is it straightforward to find the details of the persons whose ancestor is buried in that plot?
Yeah, we've got all the records, so as long as it meets that criteria of the policy, that's when we go ahead with the reuse the reuse.
Well, have the people whose ancestor is in that plot got any right to say no?
I'll check on that, but as I say, it's because it's 70 years. I think it's that generational thing where
Yeah.
there's nobody about looking after the graves. So
Yeah,
that's
and it's got to be an unpurchased plot then.
that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not a family plot or anything like that.
No,
Then it's
it's
got to be an
unpurchased.
unpurchased plot, which is, as you say, is unmarked. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have any comments, Phil? No. Okay. Councillor Clive Jones, comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It is a very interesting report, and there's some very detailed, interesting information in there. What struck me, Chair, when I read the report is, I can remember when I first was elected to the local authority, not all that long afterwards, there was concern that we looking into the future, that there wouldn't be sufficient plots, burial plots, for example, particularly in Kevin-Coed, which is by far the largest cemetery in the county borough. But reading this, when you look at Kevin-Coed, the figures we got here, estimated number of years remaining based on average year demand, 164. So things have changed completely, and I can only put that down, Chair, to the fact that more and more people, probably the majority, now opt for cremation rather than burial, and we cater for that too. If members of the public want their loved ones' ashes placed in the cemeteries, we can deal with that. But the fear that we had some years ago, that there would be problems and issues and running out of burial plots. Looking at these figures, there's no chance of that for many years to come. And can I thank you for the report?
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor Bill Smith.
Yeah, Chair, on the same lines. It's a good report. It's a lot of information that we're receiving now that we haven't received for a long time, like the 2 extra extensions of the cemeteries, which people have been begging for years, but we know what's going to happen, and happen in ASP, so I support that. But the report is, I can understand it, and you're lucky. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other members for comments? No? No, okay, I'll just finish off and reiterate what everybody else has said, and thank you very much for the report. Okay, agenda item number 4 is Scrutiny Forward Work Programme. Obviously, this is the last committee in this cycle, and everybody will be aware that scrutiny committees will be changing and amalgamating. And I believe that the new chair will be sitting down with myself, I think, and yourself, and just have a quick chat. But if anyone wants anything to add, please contact Neil. But I'm sure Neil will write out to everyone and ask for their comments on what they'd like to see on this forward work programme going forward. Councillor Bill Smith.
Done the light plastic collection we used to do years ago, because all of a sudden I see a lot of people using Tesco's, and especially last week, Swansea Council are going to start using certain areas. So can we have a really look into it, because I do my bins, and my bins are close and 3/4 empty, because I've got all the plastic stuff in the bin. So now can we let's have a really good look at it, because we done it years ago, and I think it saved a lot of recycled stuff that's going elsewhere, not in the bin. So if you can really look at that, over the moon.
Just Neil, add on to that if you don't mind. I believe that council did at least 2 trials, in some of which was in Dowras and Pant with RAP. So if the results of those trials could be included in the report that Councillor Bill Smith has asked for as well, if you could put forward that to the new chair. Councillor Clive Jones.
Yes, it's probably on the same subject, because in the forward work programme, it says draft new waste strategy currently being developed with RAP. Will be presented within this scrutiny cycle when established. So,
Right.
do we know, if you're talking about this scrutiny cycle, that's been missed, or that somebody somewhere is working on this and it's not ready?
Can I answer?
Yeah.
But I've been the reports back in now. Reports back in now, so they're just waiting for the report to be written up by the Welsh, by RAP, to send out to us, so they can bring it to us then.
Right.
But it's complete.
And I presume it'll come to us
It'll come to us first.
First as a scrutiny committee.
Yeah.
But hopefully that could be for the. I agree with you, Chair, that you know, various chairs and vice chairs of this new committee will have to look at the priorities in here, with both sides, the neighbourhood services side and the other side. But I think that strategy should hopefully be one of the first that we could deal with.
Yeah, I agree. I think we put 2 dates aside originally, you know, to bring it to committee, but I'm glad that it's been done now, and it won't be long, with a bit of luck, before the report is done. Okay, Councillor Gary Thomas. Thank you, Clive.
Chair, you may know, because I don't think any of the rest of us know, is with the amalgamation of new scrutiny committees coming together, 2 points. Are scrutiny meetings going to be longer, so we can debate more reports in a day? Because otherwise, we'd only be scrutinising half as much. Okay.
Sarah King, because I don't think the numbers of the number of members has been finalised yet either, and all this does need to be looked at. There will be some advantages, obviously, I think, with the amalgamation, because before, where flight tipping figures would come to this committee, then the enforcement wouldn't, and it will go to region. And I think, things like that will help. So that would be, instead of 2 reports, it would be 1 report, and there may be other things like that as well.
I haven't had any indication on that yet, Councillor Thomas, but as Councillor Salmon said, we've got a couple of meetings this week to try and iron things out, so I'll raise that point and I'll come back to you on that then.
I think Anne has written out to the leaders. Have you been given any idea on who's going to sit on committees, the numbers wise, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Doug. Yeah, Anne from Democratic Services sent out the list, and we put forward names now to sit on the committee. Very similar to what we got now, really. There'll be about 5 or 6 councillors on each committee, right? So that's not going to change so much. But I was just hoping for, like today now, it's now half hour. We've done 1 report, where maybe we could do 2 or 3 reports in a session. I think that's what we need to get to.
Once I start getting information, with a bit of luck after Thursday, well, hopefully all members will be updated, to be honest, as soon as possible, because I think everyone needs to fill their calendars, to know exactly what's going on June, July and August, especially if people are going away and stuff like that. So, yeah, I do agree. Councillor Clive Jones?
Yes, I've been writing to Anne. I've spoken to her as well, in the office, because we all know we're all 30 of us busy people, and my calendar's got nothing at the moment after the 40th of May for any of the meetings. And to be fair, she said they're still working on it. But I do agree with Councillor Thomas, is that merging two committees, what I don't want to see, frankly, is either part of that committee being advised, well, we've got so much now from that committee and that committee, but we can only deal with so many items in the scrutiny committee. That shouldn't impede us in any way from scrutinising what we want to scrutinise, and in some cases, members might feel that it's urgent, rather than wait months. It depends on what the subject is. The other thing is, which I raised in full council, was the situation with the co-opted members, because I do feel that they're an important aspect of the scrutiny committees, and that needs to be looked at. Now, we've had the email that's been sent out, which I fully approve of what perhaps the co-opted members haven't seen that, and perhaps they should see it. That should, in my opinion, not just the elected members, but actually been sent to all the current co-opted members, because it tells you how they're looking at the co-opted members. So my guess is that when they can sort out who's on which committee from the groups, etc., but whether the issue about the co-opted members will be absolutely bang on right before the committees started, because in my view, certain of these co-opted members will have to be advertised. The attendance, from what I see, reading the minutes of a few co-opted members, frankly, leaves a lot to be desired. So, we need to fill these positions from individuals who are interested and want to attend and take their part. So the co-opted members part of it, perhaps Neil and Jane, etc., can find out what the timeline for the dealing with that, and eventually it'll mean putting it out to advert. Well, that's going to take, in my opinion, another few weeks.
I come in on the co-opted members. I think it may be worthwhile bringing up the timings of scrutiny committees, because we used to have youth members involved, and obviously if they're in college or school, they can't really attend, and maybe there's people that are working that can't attend either. Maybe we do need to look at the timings to get more people involved. But I do know there's a citizens panel being looked at as well for the future, so maybe all these things can be brought up. Just in regards to something that Councillor Gavin Thomas and yourself brought up, it's not down to the Cabinet on how many issues should be looked at by scrutiny, and if there needs to be 2, 3 or even 4 things looked at by a scrutiny committee, then that is down to the members. And if they feel that these things need to be brought up and scrutinised, then that is down to you guys.
What's happening? All right. I think the timings is a difficult one, Chair, and we came to the conclusion as a result of the availability, let's be perfectly honest, of elected members and, of course, co-opted members, because if you're a co-opted member, you've got to think twice. If you're in a full-time job, for example, you've got to approach an employer. They've got to, ask questions. When are these meetings placed at? So, in my view, if we have these meetings starting any earlier than 4 o'clock, we could have problems, not only with elected members, but several of the co-opted members as well. I think inevitably what is likely to happen is that the meetings may well be kept at 4 o'clock, but they will last longer. And, you know, I think we have to accept that is the way it will be dealt with.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Mr. Philip Starr.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's connected with that. I am a co-opted member. I've heard nothing at all about any potential changes. You explained something to me earlier on, which I was unaware of, so I'm not in the loop, to be honest. I'm not. So presumably the dates that were set for the next one of these committees are no longer correct.
We haven't got any dates.
I thought we did have them last year.
This current cycle.
Are there any for then? I've got dates. I've got dates here going up into January. I've got dates.
But they based it on the 5 committees.
Yeah. So I can get rid of all those, yeah? Right. I checked earlier. That was what I was doing when he thought I was sleeping. I was checking my emails. Yeah, Bill said I was sleeping, but I was checking the dates. And anyway, the other thing about the kind of work that the committee does, we should have had an extra item today, shouldn't we, about flood risk management? And that presumably would have taken us a lot longer than just what we've done today. I think I'm with the others here that the fact that a meeting for one item is no longer suitable with regard to time. If we're going to meet, we need to be, looking at least 2 items, and it would have been better to have said, right, let's put that off to the next meeting.
I think we've had quite a few meetings cancelled and RAP. Obviously, the flooding, a lot of things waiting on reports from other people. So maybe if you do have the 2, 3, 4 on the agenda, then it wouldn't be so bad if one is cancelled. Okay, Councillor David Hughes.
When you come back to it, looking at the thriving, which this will become the Thrive scrutiny. If you have a look what's on there, I'll be honest with you, it covers such a vast area. I would have thought you might have 3 cabinet members there in some meetings, because it all overlaps, So,
I think you're right, but I think the one thing committee, in regards to the 2, 3, 4 reports coming through, the aim of the committee is to make change. And I don't think it's a case that we should be bringing reports just for the sake of it. It needs to be bringing things forward that we can all, and that's 30 councillors, that is, can create meaningful change. That will benefit not just councillors but residents and the local authority.
No,
okay. Thank you. Councillor Bill Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I think with the new setup or scrutinise, I think we've got to look at everything. First of all, what's the time limit for the pre-meetings? Because at the present moment, we're pre-meeting at 3 o'clock, pre-meeting at 4. That's not good to me, it's a waste of time. Right? So the pre-meeting shouldn't be held on the same day as scrutiny. Could give people a chance to look around, and there's a time factor. At the present moment now, scrutiny is 6 weeks. That should be altered, that should be 3 weeks to myself. Because we're saying in extra time, 3 weeks, you can manage it. Because, to be honest, sometimes you have 1 or 2 I'm going to meet in a week, I think. So we want to really look at it and say, every 3 weeks, scrutiny, pre-meeting, different days. Because you come in there at 3 o'clock, you leave now at 2, yeah? It's a waste of time. You're hanging about. I got other things to do, so I think we're going to review the time scale and how we set the meetings going, right? At scrutiny, what the committee do and all that, it's up to them and full council. But at the end of the day, as a scrutiny committee, we go running around to me sometimes. One day we're doing so much, other day is less. So we want to fill our weekend to me.
I think the pre-meet was supposed to be last Tuesday, but somebody was on holiday, so so we couldn't go forward with.
I know, no,
No
it
name
was
was
not.
mentioned.
Elected members will as well.
No, no, I don't know, but we work at our school.
Yeah, yeah.
But we got to realise that if you got 3 scrutinies, you got all the time factor. You got to say that you're on 2 instead of 1 every 6 weeks.
Did I hear you right? Instead of every 6 weeks, you want a scrutiny every 3
It
weeks?
should be 3 weeks. Have a look
Okay.
at it. Have a time factor. You got more time to discuss something then than just rush through it. Because certain time. Oh, I can go certain time. School run, everything all mixed in. It
might take 6 weeks just to get over what they've just gone through.
Well, that's life, isn't it?
Okay. You didn't have to put on the microphone. Thank you, Matthew. Okay. Agenda item number 5, scrutiny referrals. There are none. Agenda item number 6, feedback on scrutiny activities. Neil, do you want to do this?
Yeah, this is just a small feedback report on the task and finish workshop that was held following Councillor Salmon's report. So it's just to sort of close the loop on that aspect of it, really, on the workshop itself, but it's just bearing in mind that the outcome of that, the fly tipping working group, which is being chaired by Sarah King and Judith Jones, is still ongoing, and the development of that policy is still ongoing. So yeah, this report is just closing the loop on the workshop side of things, but the outcome of that, again, the policy is still ongoing.
I'll just come in on that. Hopefully, we should have something fairly concrete for June or July.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the next meeting is 8th of May. Yeah, and I think the aim of that is to sort of start tying all the loose ends up. And as Councillor Salmon said, then hopefully sort of June and July, but I'll speak with Judith and Sarah on that to get a bit more clarity on the dates.
Okay. Matthew, are you going to turn off my microphone now, if that's all right? Okay, Councillor David Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. It's about the report. It was an excellent report. We all met at the office and we seen the report that was put by yourself. I was saddened, to be honest, with the officers that they didn't invite any scrutiny members to sit on that policy making group, because I think all of us have got a vested interest in fly tipping. We all get complaints, I'm sure of it. I thought we missed the trick, really, in getting everybody together and putting together a really good policy. We could have made a good policy there. It was all the hard work that brought it there, I must admit. But it would have been lovely to be able to put our views forward so people could see that everybody's involved in it, rather than officers bring up a policy which, they could have brought them up years ago beyond through, but they are.
I think one of the recommendations in the report is that it comes back to scrutiny. Fairly often, I don't know if that's once every 6 months or once every 12 months, but it's something that scrutiny members then should look at and then think, right, that's not quite working, or that is working, and come up with things. And that's how scrutiny will work in regards to the fly tipping and enforcement, and all that will be under one committee then. So, okay.
Yeah, and I think the intention as well, Councillor Hughes, is following these sets of meetings that's been held and the development of the policy, further down the line they're going to sort of hold regular steering sort of meetings as well, not just with internal sort of partners, it's going to be external with sort of housing associations, etc. as well. So I think that's where the member involvement is going to come in as well. But again, I'll ask Sarah and Judith to give a further update for that for you as well.
On that comment, can you ask for a time limit, because I am absolutely fed up on those homes, because the girl at the present moment is like a bit of a tip. Right there. The gardens, the fronts, is just a mess. So there's a bit of time limit now for us.
Yeah, I'll ask Councillor Smith, no problem.
Chair, I know we're off topic a little bit now, and we've been talking about, flight tipping reports really. But something I was always frustrated with was NRW and the way permits are given to, organised waste carriers, knowing that a lot of these people are criminals. They are criminals, right? And they've been to prison for different things over the past, but yet it's easy to get for a fee. And I think that's really to break the back of organised crime of flight tipping. It's NRW really are the ones who've got to come to the table and take some responsibility.
Yeah. They move the point, right? They don't have to show anything.
That's ridiculous.
Just for the name, address, phone number, and got it.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Hopefully something else that might help is something that's going to start on Friday with the police and supposedly partners, and I think it's called Clear, Hold and Build.
Door knocking.
Door knocking, yeah. Yeah. But I think they're going to start with town centres and hopefully get on top of flight tip and organised crime and that sort of thing, but then not just deal with the town centre, but also go out into where it is displaced and go to different areas.
Down the line, it may be worth. So we get the fire brigade, and ambulance service, health come in to see us from time to time. Perhaps we get NRW in, to be scrutinised on this. Yeah, as well, yeah.
As well as them giving out the licences, an awful lot. If it's done in forestry land or an awful lot, it encroaches on their property as well. They're responsible for it. But as well as what you do, their response is quite ineffective.
It is.
I know that the cabinet member now meets with NRW regular, because I went to the one meeting before we came up to the administration. So there are regular meetings now with the NRW and the cabinet member. So if we could, if you want to put something to the cabinet, he can ask him questions for him. Yeah.
Okay. Agenda item number 6, 7. Any other business team urged by the chair? I have. Councillor Clive Jones.
Chair, I believe it's your last meeting chairing this committee. I wouldn't leave it go without thanking you for your chairmanship of this committee. And you go into pastures new, but I think the thanks for myself, and I'm sure all members of the committee, for the way that you've dealt with this committee over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. I hope you won't grill me too much when I'm at the end. I'm sure you will. Thank you very much, everyone, and I declare this meeting closed.